Okay, now probably what you just had to do was start the video, the second segment, because when she had to press stop when somebody came to the door, it made a second video, but that's okay. All right, now, trading blocks. Look at this. When I see that word block, I think, oh, it's something that blocks trade. Throw that out. And yes, Brittany, I know that's confusing, and I know that you're going to be whining, but that's okay. Trading blocks actually aren't blocks. They're looking at more of it being a section that is now all making trade easier. Yeah, I know that sounds confusing. Hang on a minute and think about it for a minute. A trading block would be where you're sitting at 2 tables of 5 right now, where one of you is, instead of being 5 separate people trading, you decide to form a group that trades as one, and so you've got more trading power. And the same thing at the other table. That's what they're meaning by block in this way. So let's look at 2 very well-known examples in our nation, or in our world. One is called NAFTA. And a lot of you have probably heard that on the radio or on television and didn't know what it was. It stands for North American Free Trade Agreement. And I can promise you that will be on your test tomorrow, so you better make sure you know what NAFTA stands for. North American Free Trade. What we did back in the 1990s when President Clinton was president, he opened trade between Mexico and Canada and the United States. So instead of there being tariffs, instead of there being quotas and those sorts of things, we don't have those trading barriers with Canada and Mexico. All 3 countries of North America can trade freely with each other without the barriers. Some people say that's a good thing. Some people say that's a bad thing. There's really no true foundation for whether it's really good or really bad. It's kind of a divided issue. Take that same example to the European Union. European Union, called the EU. This is actually a group of 27 countries in Europe. Now you got to understand, the countries in Europe are really small. A lot of them aren't even nearly as big as Georgia. So you could hop in your car this morning and by lunch be driven through 4 countries. So imagine the hardship of that when you're trading and you got to come across all these tariffs and everything with countries that are this small. So the European Union said, let's come together, and instead of having Italy and Greece and Spain and France and Germany and all these separate, let's form a block together, kind of like your table is a block. Let's form a group together of 27 nations, and their goal is to lower tariffs among those nations. They don't have those tariffs anymore. They are freely trading among their 27. Now, are we part of the European Union? No, we're not in Europe. We're not part of the EU. So do we have to pay tariffs? Yes, we do. But they don't among each other, just like we don't with Mexico and Canada up here. The third example has to do with Asia. Association of Southeast Asian Nations. I call this ASEAN. Some people call it ASEAN or different things. I don't rightly care how you pronounce it, because in our South Georgia English, we're probably not pronouncing it correctly anyway. But in looking at this is the same thing. It's a group, a goal to eliminate most tariffs among 10 Southeast Asian countries, which is why it's the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN. So, tomorrow on your test, you may have a question that says, what countries does the North American Free Trade Agreement do? How does it help in trade? You better know that the 3 countries of North America are United States, Canada, Mexico. Or it might say, what was the goal of the European Union? And you say, well, it's to help 27 countries in Europe be able to trade more freely. Or the question may say, what is the general consensus about the usefulness of NAFTA, EU, and ASEAN? And your answer would be, well, it's kind of 50-50. Some people say it's helped a lot. Other people said it's been the worst thing we could have done. So again, you've got your protectionists and your free traders. It depends on who you talk to as to whether it's a good thing or not. Hopefully this makes sense and you understand it a little better than what you might would have. All right? Now, moving on to this next part. Exchange rates. Let's look at exchange rates for a minute. I mentioned to you on the very first day of international economics that the dollar may not get you a whole dollar in other countries, but yet in some countries the dollar may get you even more than it would in the United States. Remember that the strength of a nation's economy, their heartbeat, is based on their GDP. And GDP is the gross domestic product. The stronger your GDP as a nation, the stronger your money is. The weaker your GDP as a nation, the weaker your money is. So as a result of that, some nations in our world have really rocking GDPs and they're doing really well. Other nations in our world, they're kind of struggling, and so their money's not worth much. But yet we're all trading with each other, and so we want to make sure that we get the most bang for our buck wherever we're trading. So we're looking at exchange rates. It's the price of one nation's currency in terms of another nation's currency. What's a dollar worth when compared to a Japanese yen? What's a dollar worth when it's compared to a Mexican peso? Are they equal, or is one stronger than the other? The United States dollar, at the time that this was created, at the time that this slide was created, and this changes all the time. Listen to what I just said. These values change every day because people are buying and selling every day, and so this is in complete flux all the time. But at the time this slide was created, it took $1.58 of American money to equal 1 British pound. Britain's money is called a pound, not a dollar, and that's their sign. Like we have a dollar sign here, this is the sign for their pound. At the time this slide was made, to get one of their pounds, I'd have to cough up $1.58. What does that say about their GDP and our GDP? Whose is stronger and whose is weaker? Think about it. Okay, I hope you said that Britain's is stronger than ours, which is why their pound is worth more than ours, and we're having to cough up extra. Now looking at this, foreign currency per United States dollar, it only takes 63 hundredths of a pound to get one of our dollars. Only 63 hundredths of a pound to get one of our dollars. So, who'd want to go shopping where? Are the British people going to want to come shopping over here where they can get a whole dollar for 63 of their 63 pence, I believe is what they call them? Or do we want to go over there where we got to cough up $1.58 just to get 1 pound? Think about it. I hope you came up with they're going to want to come shopping over here because they can bring theirs. It only takes 63 pence to get one whole dollar from us. They can get a lot more for their money coming and shopping in America right now. Always changing, determined by supply and demand. So exchange rates are always going up and down. Now, depreciation and appreciation. This is not saying, I appreciate what you did for me. That's not what this means. What depreciation and appreciating has to do is with the value of goods. So stop and don't think about exchange rates for a minute. Think about this with me. Johnny, you've got a BMW, which we all wish we could be driving. It is a 2001, I believe is what you told me. Since 2001, do you think that BMW has appreciated in value, meaning gone up in value? Or do you think that it has depreciated in value, meaning going down? Okay? Johnny probably said it's appreciated, but the rest of you know he's wrong. It has depreciated in value. When you have something, usually the older it gets, the less value it has. Take my house that I built last year. It's probably not going to be as valuable 25, 30 years from now because it's older. It's possible if I do upgrades to it and stuff, I might could sell it for more than what I paid for it. But now think about it. What raises over time? Prices. And what is that called? Steady rising prices over time. Inflation. So really 25, 30 years from now, I don't know that my house will be worth more. It may just cost more because of inflation. But the actual value of it will probably have depreciated. So let's take that back to money now. Depreciation is the dollar value has decreased. Unfortunately, this would be us recently. The dollar value in the last 5 years has been on a downhill slide. It's not worth as much as it once was. Appreciation, the dollar value has increased. We wish this were the case, and it is the case not for the dollar, but in some other countries, their money is going up in value. What do you think drives it up? What makes their dollar or their money, their currency, go up in value? What's it called? Heartbeat. Yes, GDP. As that country gets stronger and it's producing more stuff, the GDP goes up and the value of their money goes up with it. If the GDP starts falling, the value of their money starts falling. So, appreciation is when GDP is growing, it's getting worth more, your money appreciates. Depreciation, when GDP is falling, then you're running into problems and your money value depreciates. The United States, sadly, is not in a real good situation right now. All right, let's look at this exchange rate table. Looking at this table, take a minute to look at it. We've got the United States dollar, the Great Britain pound, the Canadian dollar, they call theirs the dollar too, euro, remember that's the European Union, that's 27 nations and they all use the same currency called a euro, and the Australian dollar. Doggone, Australia and Canada are using the same money we are. It doesn't look like ours, they just call it a dollar like we do. Okay, so United States dollar in the United States is worth $1. You got that? Great Britain pound in Great Britain is worth $1. It's worth £1. The Canadian dollar in Canada is worth $1. But now the Canadian dollar in the U.S. is worth, 99 cents. That's interesting. That means Canada and the U.S. are almost what? At the time the slide was created, Canada and the U.S. were almost equal in the value of our currency. So our economies were almost equal in strength. I bet a lot of you wouldn't have thought that to be true. A euro in the U.S., it takes $1.33 of our euro to get $1.33 of our U.S. dollars to get one of their euros. Okay? And then in Australia, it takes 92 cents of ours to get their Australian dollar. So according to this, Canada is actually not quite as strong as us, and Australia is not quite as strong as us, but the euro and Great Britain are kicking our butts. Because when we take a U.S. dollar and we go over there, it takes $1.53 for us to get one of theirs, and it takes $1.33 to get one of theirs. Here it's almost dead even, and here there's only a little bit of change, 92 cents to our dollar, so not a lot of difference. But now let's look at some of these. As you look through, you can look at this chart. Now I wish the chart had on there the yen and the peso, because Mexico's economy is not nearly as strong as ours, and therefore if I go to Mexico, my $1 usually will get me about 10 of their pesos. Kind of interesting, huh? So you could go to Mexico and take $50 and get 500 peso, because ours is stronger than theirs, and so it'll get us more of their money when we get over there. The Japanese yen, and I'm admitting my own ignorance to you here, I don't understand why this is true, because I thought Japan's economy was so strong, but the way theirs is called, they have the Japanese yen. Usually, one of our dollars gets us right around 100 of their yen. That gets interesting. But it's also interesting that when you go to look at hotel room prices in Japan, if you type it in and look, a hotel room is about 3,000 yen. Well, 3,000 yen would be about what for us? Yeah, about $300. And if you think about it in America, a nice hotel room in a big city is going to run you close to $300. So it really is kind of comparable. But when I go over there, it'd make you feel rich, because you give $1 and you get about 100 of their yen. So quickly you'd feel rich until you saw how much their prices were. All right, so this is an exchange rate table, and you're going to be doing some playing with one of those in a moment. When the dollar is strong, this is what tends to happen. When the dollar is strong, imports increase and become cheaper for consumers to buy. Now think about that. Our dollar is stronger than other countries. That means I can buy from those countries and get more bang for my buck. So of course I'm going to buy from their countries, and I'm going to bring the goods over here because it was cheaper to buy it over there and bring it over here. Does that make sense? Travel abroad is cheaper for American tourists. More people are going to go abroad to go on vacation. They're going to sign up to go down to Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, or they're going to say, I want to go to Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, or I want to go over to Tokyo, Japan, or I want to go, because if the American dollar is strong, spending it in America, you're going to get $1 for $1. But if it's stronger than these other countries, you can go over there on vacation and get more bang for your dollar. Does that make sense? So when the American dollar is strong, we'll see more imports, we'll see more people going on vacation in other places. Our exports will decline. Why won't people want to buy our stuff? Yeah, you're right. Because it costs them too much. They've got to spend too much of their money to get ours because we're stronger than them at that point. And the U.S. trade deficit will increase. Our imports will become even bigger than our exports. We're bringing it in because it's cheap. Nobody's wanting to buy because it's costing them too much. So that's appreciation. The opposite is depreciation. When the dollar is weak, hello, this is us right now. This is our life. When the dollar is weak, U.S. exports increase. Everybody wants to buy from us when the dollar's weak. Why? Because our dollar's not worth much. Their money's worth more. They can get more of our stuff for a better price. They love that. All right? Travel abroad, we're not going overseas because it costs too much money. I go to Japan, and their yen is stronger than the American dollar. It'll cost me even more to go over there on vacation. No, thank you. No out-of-country vacations for me this year. U.S. imports decline. We're not buying as much from other people because it's costing us more money. We'd be just as good off to spend our money right here. All right, so we're just as well off to spend our money here. So the U.S. imports decline. The price of the imports increase. U.S. trade balance gets better. Hey, our GDP looks a little better in that regard because we don't have quite so many imports coming in. We're not in that trade deficit quite as badly. Foreign investment in the U.S. business increases. Look at that. Think about who holds a lot of our debt right now. China, Russia, Japan have bought in on our debt. Why? Because their money's worth more than ours. We're depreciating, so they're more than happy to come buy up some of our stuff. Because if we recuperate, and we hope we do, when we start building back up, they'll get money back on their investments. All right. Hope you don't have any major questions right now. If you do, then save them, write them down for tomorrow morning, and I will be able to go over those with you then. I've got some activities for you to do now that the sub is about to give you so that you can go through and do some practicing with appreciate, depreciate, and looking at these exchange rate tables. Otherwise, your test will be strictly exchange rates with appreciation and depreciation. It'll be talking about absolute and comparative advantage with those kinds of things that you have to read the chart and answer the question. Then they'll also have questions about the trade barriers, tariffs, quotas, subsidies, standards, embargoes. Those are the things that they'll be asking about. That's just vocabulary. And then there'll also be questions about NAFTA, the European Union, ASEAN, and maybe some questions about protectionists and free traders. Again, all that's very simple. The only thing I want you to really kind of ponder on is this idea of the exchange rate table that we looked at, and you're going to get some of that on a worksheet that you're about to get. And then also I want you to look at appreciation where it gains value versus depreciation where it loses value. All right, guys, have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks.